Okay, everyone, we've reached Tuesday morning. This is a morning briefing from the Celtic Way with me, Hamish and Ryan as well. We're into the international break, everyone. We've got to stew over Sunday's result for a couple of weeks, which I guess is a bit of an unusual feeling. Ryan, I can't remember the last time we went into an international break off the back of a disappointing result. But we can chat a bit more about things and a few other things that have gone on as well.
Yeah, it's never boring in the world of Celtic, that's for sure, especially after a derby weekend, positively or negatively. There's always some stories that come out. Unfortunately, it's been the latter over the past weekend or so. But yeah, happy to be on the podcast, happy to be speaking this morning on the morning briefing. And yeah, happy to be on with you, Hamish.
Great stuff. Morning, everyone. Thanks for settling in during the international break and joining us. As I say, we've got various things to talk about. There's a few, I guess, parts of the aftermath of Sunday. Celtic stuck out a statement. I'm trying to do the time now. So this would have been 6:06, just after 6 p.m. UK time. Because I've got the Aussie time here, so I was trying to do my quick maths. But I'll just read it out quickly because it's a very short statement from Celtic. They say, Celtic Football Club has received complaints regarding the police operation concerning yesterday's match, specifically events away from Celtic Park. We are reviewing our supporters' concerns and we'll be looking into these issues. It is important that these matters are addressed and the club will be engaging in discussions with supporters and Police Scotland to understand the circumstances and events. With regards to the match at Celtic Park, we can also confirm that the club has raised concerns regarding members of the away team engaging with Celtic supporters with the relevant authorities. So we know that the event Celtic are referring to there. We'll discuss that in a wee second, everyone. Just forgot to do this right at the start. A quick word from our sponsor, S1 Jobs, who this video is brought to you by. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. They've got thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh and the surrounding areas. So you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. So I guess the final paragraph there, Ryan's to do with the water spraying incident at the end of the game. Is, I don't know, I've not really seen people's thoughts on this, so I'm wary of making a sweeping comment, but is this something that's really got to people?
Something that's getting spoke about in Scotland over the past couple of days, or since the incident happened. It seems as if it's been taking over a lot of the headlines, whether that's the media wanting to talk about this incident and blow it out of proportion. For me, personally, and I'll bring my own personal opinion into it, if the shoe was on the other foot and a fan did this to a player, I think that, you know, the relevant parties would be getting involved and being saying, right, you've got to keep your supporters in check. So I'm not surprised that there has been. I think Police Scotland have launched an investigation into the incident that happened on Sunday. I think that's absolutely fine. I think it should be the case because I think there's a line, and it works both ways. For fans and players for fans. I think there's a line that you don't cross, and you know, when that goal was scored, I think a line was crossed, and I think it was pretty clear watching on from Celtic Park that, you know, there would be a wee bit of trouble coming out of that. But yeah, it's a disappointing one, but just more disappointed about the game as a whole, to be honest. You know, going into the game on Sunday, feeling pretty confident about it, confident in the way that Celtic were playing, especially after the last game against Hibs. To put in that sort of performance was just, you know, the lack of hunger, or the perceived hunger, or the lack of perceived hunger was really disappointing on a derby day. You know, it doesn't matter if you're 16 points clear. I know they're 13 points clear now, but to not show that desire and fight to, you know, get one step closer to the league title. I know they got the fight back. They fought back and brought it back to 2 each, but you give yourself a mountain to climb going down 2-0 in the first half. And yeah, that's basically my feelings on the whole day, just of disappointment that Celtic couldn't really lay down a marker when that's what they've been doing all season, to be fair.
Yeah, just a few of the comments we get in, kind of different viewpoints. Evil Genius Cherny's acted unprofessionally. That's it. End of story. No one was hurt. Move on and discuss the football, not a silly incident. AIR saying, absolutely, Ryan, a fan would be barred. The club would be suspended. Why should a footballer not be subject to it? Tony similarly saying if a fan did that to Czerny, he would have been in the cells on London Road. So that's happening. Celtic commenting on, I think, the Green Brigade incident as well before the game. That's a difficult one to comment on without knowing the full details. It certainly seems, and again, just my viewpoint, it seems like something untoward has gone on there before the game. But it'll be interesting to hear to find out if we hear any more from the club on this. I'm kind of feeling we probably won't. I mean, it's quite a short statement they put out last night. Certainly, the Green Brigade and North Curve are saying a fair bit online, and people will be across that. It was just a bit of a dire day all round, wasn't it? With them, I think a fair amount of them missing the game, and the Callum McGregor stuff, but even in the lead up to the game, and then just the way the match panned out, it was a bit of a dire afternoon.
It was, and it didn't start great with the team news that came out. As much as Mike Nawrocki, I thought, did quite well in the game, you'd much rather have Austin Trusty in there alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers. And despite Nawrocki doing well, and I thought he was the better of the two centre-halves, that could have maybe played a part in Cameron Carter-Vickers' uncharacteristically shaky performance. The fact that he was playing with somebody that he wasn't used to, and that can change the way a player plays. And yeah, it was a disappointing day for him. Callum McGregor, missing your captain, your focal point. I think you missed him in more ways than one, and I was speaking about this after the game as well. As much as former referees have came out and said that Stephen McLean had a good game on Sunday, I can't subscribe to that whatsoever, because the amount of fouls that he was allowing, particularly Rangers, to get away with without any bookings in the first half. But you can't really talk about this too much, or you'll get accused of having sour grapes because Celtic lost the game. I just think it was a pretty poor refereeing performance. Not that he did anything drastically bad, but I thought he stopped the flow of the game. There was a couple of moments where he could have allowed plays to continue, and he didn't. But all in all, I think just everything from the team news to come out, the lack of certain players in the team, to the Green Brigade not coming in, the atmosphere that they give, good or bad, you've got the positives and negatives when it comes to the Green Brigade, but they bring an atmosphere, especially on Derby Day, and it's difficult to get chants going and getting songs going when you don't have that specific group leading the charge. So when you don't have that, it automatically gets quieter as a result. It just felt like a lot of 4 or 5 different factors all came into play, which resulted in a poor day for Celtic, despite that comeback in the second half. And when it hit 2 each, I thought there was only going to be one winner in this game. Celtic looked to be on top, but they allowed Rangers back into it, and that was pretty disappointing on the day. But yeah, it's Sunday's one of those ones that you're just trying to forget. But unfortunately, with the international break, it's the only game that you can think about for the next week and a half out with Scotland.
I mean, you were obviously at the game. What was the atmosphere like in comparison to previous derbies? I guess personally, I think the first few minutes and all those throw-ins and corners and the goal that they scored, I just think that sucked the entire life out of it.
Yep.
Certainly me watching it here, the difference between me just prior to kickoff, I was ready to go, everyone, and 3 minutes into the game when you're 1-0 down, and even if they hadn't have scored from that corner, I think the start to that game, the fact we were just penned in constantly for about 3 or 4 minutes, just kind of sucked the life out of me. So what was it like in the stadium, and did the atmosphere improve as the game went on?
Prior to kickoff, the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant, because these games take care of themselves. You'll never walk alone. You've got the stadium announcer will say the first name, and then the players, and then the fans say the second name, and it really does add to, you've got the different songs that are coming on, the music blaring around the stadium. Everybody was up for it. I didn't notice that the Green Brigade weren't there to begin with until I looked down and realised there was no banners and no drummers. I did think it was a bit quieter than usual, but I think that was me getting sucked into the occasion and the tie. You're focusing on the game and what's around you rather than the people that are around you, I guess. But that all changed, like you said. I think all the atmosphere was sucked out of it. In the first minute, giving away corners, and you're automatically on the back foot, and you're worried about if Celtic can can deal with the set pieces that are going to come in. It turned out after the 3rd minute they couldn't, and Raskin scored the opening goal. And that just sucked the energy out of the place. There was a bit of a shout after the goal went in where we're like, right, let's get back on top. Let's G the team on and get back into this game. It's an early goal. You'd rather that Rangers scored early than late on. They did both, unfortunately, on the day. But at 1-0, you're like, it's an early game. There's still loads of time. Celtic are still at home. Rangers played on Thursday night. They will be tired eventually in this game. That's just natural for footballers to be like that. The second goal was the killer because, Celtic had chances at 1-0. I remember Rio Hatate had a shot from distance that Butland put over the bar. A couple of chances here and there. They dominated possession. Looking at the stats yesterday, as I dissected the game yesterday for Stats Bomb, they dominated the game, but they weren't really doing much with the ball. And then that second goal from Diamande, it's a messy goal to concede, and it just killed any sort of atmosphere. I mean, at half-time, as Celtic were going off the pitch, there was boos, and it was a really poor performance. And there was a bit of a dissection in the stands, like, what is happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening again against Rangers? But to be fair to them and to their credit, at that point, they did come out in the second half and try and make a difference and try and change the game positively. Unfortunately, they get caught by an absolute sucker punch at the end of the game. But that's what happens when you get a dangerous opposition with dangerous players in there.
Yeah, we just on the start here saying we're rabbits in the headlights. Those first 5 minutes, why was that? It's difficult to try and think of a reason. I guess it certainly seemed like right from kickoff, Rangers were up for the game and we were sleeping a little bit. I'd like to watch those first 5 minutes again, but I just felt I think it was Jeffrey Sloop virtually every time did well to get on things, but if he was able just to have got the ball up the line or kept it in play and got it to a Celtic player rather than heading the ball out for another throw in a corner, whatever, I do think it would have made a difference to the atmosphere. I just think starting quickly in these derbies is always important, especially when you've got the home support behind you. And the fact we didn't, I think, was really disappointing. Wombat wondering where Tony is. Is he still cooling down? Potentially. Mark saying, beating Rangers at Ibrox in a few weeks is just as important as winning the cup final. I mean, that's certainly a debate that people could have. Trophies for me will always be the most important thing, but I certainly think if I'm looking at the priorities between now and the end of the season, and I was thinking this earlier, win the league well. I think you really need to win the league in style now. You can't, I don't know if you can afford a really kind of disappointing post-league winning campaign, if you know what I mean, for the rest of the season after we do clinch the league. I think we'd really need to finish the league season well and obviously win the Scottish Cup. And I think bare minimum, don't lose at Ibrox. Ideally, go and win and lay something on them ahead of the new season. I think that's what you're looking for the rest of the season. There's a lot still to be sorted out, I think, for the team. They still need to go and win the league in style. They've got that big derby at Ibrox and go and win the Scottish Cup as well. And my worry is that I just wonder if John made this point yesterday. I wonder whether some of the players feel like they've almost done their job this season, that the Champions League was the kind of major thing, and the fact that we're almost over the line and winning the league, they almost feel like they can canter for the rest of the season. And I don't think they can at all. I think we really need to see a reaction, because you want this season, which has been great in general, you want it to remain a great season and be remembered as a great season. You don't want the final few weeks of the season to just, be a bit of an anticlimax in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that even some of the reaction on social media now, social media can be a great place. It can also be a terrible place. I think it was the latter after that game on Sunday. Bit of an overreaction. Sell this player, sell this player. This player's not good enough for the club. Listen, you lost a derby against Rangers. You lost it by 1 goal and you lost it 3 minutes before the end of the game. These things happen. Maybe perhaps it can be a positive in the future that these derbies are becoming a little bit more competitive now, because it means that Celtic will be, ready. Maybe they've taken their foot off the gas in terms of how they view Rangers with how they've been over the past couple of years. I don't think they'll do that for the next game against Rangers at Ibrox, which is good. I would rather that they take them seriously, because if they take them seriously, then a more serious job can be done against a team like Rangers, and that's the most important thing. You see what the Rangers players are posting on Instagram. They've been fired up for this game, clearly. And, they've let it all out. They let it all out at full time, let it all out when they scored the third goal. I want the Celtic players not to be that fired up, when you're putting stuff on
we've got
social
a bit
media,
of class.
etc. Yeah, absolutely. But I want them to, at the same time, to be able to channel, that passion and be up for a game of that magnitude. Because in the first half, I know you'll look at the stats, you'll look at Celtic had X amount of passes, X amount of possession. But for me, from the eye test looking down on the players, there was a team there that wanted it more at Celtic Park, and it wasn't Celtic in a Glasgow Derby. And that's personally a problem, because they need to be up for it. They need to be up for Glasgow Derbies. These are bragging rights games. Doesn't matter if there's only 3 points in the league or 16 or whatever. They need to be up for these games. These games are massive. And if they're not up for it, then, some of these players, and you don't want to be too reactionary, but they're playing for the wrong club. They need to be up for these games every single time. And, if they're out and about, they'll probably hear about it. They'll be like, what happened? What happened on Sunday? There is that expectancy that if you're a Celtic player, and a Rangers player for that matter, that you've got to turn up for these Glasgow derbies. And they didn't for a large part of Sunday. And that's the problem, really.
Yeah, but Brendan Rodgers speaks about that a lot. He speaks about the players having to be Celtic players and having to win game after game, and regardless of if you're 16 points clear, you have to turn up for these games. Every game, to be honest, but especially a derby. And yeah, I'm not quite sure. Clearly, I mean, we spoke about this at length yesterday, and I'm sure you and Tony did the same after the game. But the Rangers' game plan at the moment to kind of come after us and cut off certain passing lanes, and when Callum McGregor plays to nullify him, I think clearly has an effect on us. And it's just my own personal opinion. And to be honest, it's thinking about it since full time's kind of been the awakening for me in a way, because I prior to the derby, I was of the opinion that Celtic just had to play better. I thought cup final and Ibrox, I just thought those had been off days against Rangers, and I thought if we played better, we'd be fine. They wouldn't be able to deal with us. I think the reality is that I think the game plan has to be changed, modified for the next derby. And yeah, Brendan Rodgers, as I said yesterday, did that earlier in the season after the Dortmund loss. He changed the way we played away from home, and we saw the obvious improvements away from home in Europe after that. And I think he needs to have a similar look at how we play in these derbies, because there's been 3 derbies in a row where Celtic haven't played anywhere near our best in any of those matches. And if we go to Ibrox and play the same way, with the passing around the back and them just waiting to pounce on us, I fear the same that happened at the start of January could happen. I think you've got to change the way you play. Now, it's not always this debate of there's one way to play and another way, and people always think, oh, one way is passing the ball and the other way is right, let's lump it long. There's obviously somewhere in between. But I would certainly be looking to make the Rangers defence turn a bit more. I mean, did we do that at all on Sunday? Was there any real evidence? There was one in the first half where Schlupp plays it over to Jota right after it went to 2-0, and Jota cuts in and nearly scores, goes out for a corner. Maybe a couple of examples in the second half, but we didn't do it nearly enough. And you look at Celtic's main quality, for me, it's pace, and Rangers really lack that. So I want to see us turn them more. I think we need to look, fullbacks need to be getting the ball in behind for the likes of Kuhn and Maida or Jota if he's playing. And I also don't think we should be afraid to allow them to have some possession, because I don't think they're particularly good with the ball. I think it plays right into their hands for us to have the possession and then for them to pounce on it. So I think Brendan Rodgers maybe has to just modify or go away slightly from his ideal game plan in order to get results in this fixture, because it's not working right now. Anyway, that's just some of my thoughts, and whatever. Henrik McLarsson wondering, good or bad time for an international break? What do you reckon?
Both. I think good and bad. Good for maybe the players. It's good for the players to take stock and they can actually think about the performance for a week and a half ahead of the next game. But bad in terms of us, I would say, because we need to think about it for the next week and a half. That's the last game. That's all we've got. You know, even earlier on in the season, you had a game on Tuesday, you had a game on the Wednesday to think about, and you're automatically switched after one day of reacting to that to the next game. And even if it was an adverse result, you'd be like, right, they've got 2-3 days to go and better that and really get back on track. The unfortunate thing is you've come to the end of this really, really long period for Celtic. They have played a lot of games. I did did a bit of a quick arithmetic, and it was like one game every 3.8 days they've played, and this past 113 days from Hearts away from home at Tynecastle. I think it was 4-1 that they won through Rangers in 113 days. I can't remember. It was something like 29 games. So that was that averaged a game every 3.8 days, just under 4 days. So that's a lot of football to play, and that will inevitably, without a winter break, take its toll on players. But I just think with that full week that they had to play against Rangers, and the fact that Rangers had that game against Fenerbahce, 120 minutes plus penalties against Fenerbahce, I just thought that the legs would have been there and the legs would have shown against them, and I thought they would have ran out. It seems as if they had that down period for 20-25 minutes where Celtic played well. And Rangers did drop down a level and Celtic did up it, but Rangers were clearly tired at that point. But they got a second wind right before the end. As I said in the briefing on Sunday after the game, there was a warning sign that was given. Luke McCown's blocked when he blocked that shot. And then 2 minutes later, they went and scored. So the warning signs were there that Rangers posed a threat once again when they were going forward at 2 each. Unfortunately, that warning call wasn't heeded, and they get stung at the end. I mean, I've watched that Igaman goal back at least 10 times now, and it doesn't get any better. It gets worse. I know, just to dissect it, really, to see what actually happened, and it's just a catalogue of errors. You get Cameron Carter-Vickers missing a header. You get Alistair Johnston slipping. Alistair Johnston then tries and gets back, misses the sort of ricochet with Igaman. Nawrocki tries his best to stop the shot, but it's a great finish by Igaman. It's just a disastrous goal to concede, especially when it looked as if Celtic were in the ascendancy. They'd scored the last 2 goals in the game, and they were pushing for a winner. And then once that happened, even though there was 8 minutes left to go, 3 minutes plus added time, which was 5 minutes, it felt as if it was a foregone conclusion already, despite that chance that Alistair Johnston had at the end.
Well, my own take on that is that everyone was just so keen on winning the game, even at 2-0 down, we had 45 minutes, right? And we obviously got a goal right at the start of the second half. So I don't think anyone at that stage at 2-1's thinking that we can get a draw out of this. I think everyone's thinking that we can come back and win this, and what a result that would be. And obviously when it goes 2-2, you're obviously not thinking about drawing anymore. You're thinking we can win it. And we had a couple of chances. Remember the Schlupp shot right after it goes 2-2, and Hatate has one just before their goal that goes wide. Like, we weren't a million miles away from coming back for 2-0 to win that game, and we'd be talking about it as being an incredible result. Obviously, it didn't play out that way, but I think when that third goal goes in, I think it just absolutely killed everything off in the stadium. And yes, there was still a draw there to be had. And by the way, Alistair Johnston misses a great chance with virtually the final kick.
Yep,
that summed up his day. And if he puts it in, it finishes 3-3. But I just think that Igaman goal just killed everyone off, because you realise at that point we weren't going to win. And even if we'd have come back for 3-3, it would have been better than losing. But it would have been, I think we'd have been having some of the same conversations, to be honest.
I don't think we would have been papering over the cracks, but we'd have been talking about the cracks at the same time. Because there was clearly deficiencies in Celtic's game on Sunday. The only other game it reminds me of last season, actually, was the game against Lazio, where it looked as if Celtic were pushing for that winner. Yes, they didn't get the actual winner on the day that got taken away due to VAR, Palmer's goal that was taken away, and then the sucker punch at the end. But it felt like that. It felt exactly the same, because you would have been disappointed with a draw on Sunday. Everybody would have been disappointed with a draw. Maybe not so much with Alistair Johnston's chance at the end of the game, but if no other chances were to happen, and it would have finished 2 each after Celtic getting back in the game so well, well-worked goals, one from Maeda, and then especially from Rio Hatate. That is a great goal, a great pass from Luke McCown. A draw, given the way the game was going and the ascendancy that Celtic were on, would have been disappointing. So I think that's where all the disappointment's coming. Even further disappointment is because they actually managed to lose that game when it looked as if they were going to win it at a certain point. With 15 minutes to go, I think it was the 74th minute that Hatate scored. They had time to go and get that winner and not push it, but rather try and not score the perfect goal, but construct a goal that was a goal that would break down Rangers' defence. Once again, unfortunately for them, they ran out, and Rangers then got their second one and got the goal at the end. It was just a disappointing day, all in all. I didn't want to spend too much time talking about it, but it still feels like immediately the aftermath due to the international break.
Yeah, I think as time goes on, people relatively quickly will move on from this. I mean, I think after today's video, we can kind of move on generally, and by the time we come back for the international break, everyone will be ready to go again. That's a tasty game to come back to. Hearts at home, and I've actually not worked out how many wins we are now from the title. Is it back to 3, or because the games will be running out as well? But I'm assuming that St Johnstone away games off now, so mightn't it be at Celtic Park now we win the league, which could be, I guess, I don't know, one wee positive to come for Sunday. We've not won the league at Celtic Park, I think, since 2018. So I'm just trying to do this off the cuff. So we're 13 clear of them now with 24 points to play for. So probably, what are we, maybe 4 wins away from the title? Potentially.
I read somewhere that it's still 3 wins, but
right.
I'm not going to get into the mathematics.
So if we're 13 points. Well, for 13 points clear, and Rangers were to keep winning, and we kept winning, you'd be 13 clear going into the split. So it wouldn't be over by the split. So you'd be looking at the first game after the split. So we've got Hearts coming up at home, St Johnstone away, and then Kilmarnock at home. So, I mean, it's still very... And then you've got a cup semi after that. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's not really much time to feel sorry for ourselves, because we're going to be back into it after the break. And I still think this Celtic team can make this a really memorable season. I mean, imagine, how will you feel if we win the league well, win the Scottish Cup, and win at Ibrox? You'll be feeling a whole lot better about things, and you almost kind of forget Sunday. So that's what the team have to go and do for me.
Yeah, do you know, there's been so many high points of this season, a couple of low points as well. You know, the 2 Glasgow derbies, the Dortmund game, the end of the Bayern Munich game. But about 90% of this season has been positive for Celtic, and you've seen genuine improvements. That's why I was kind of taken aback by all the reactionary stuff online. I do expect it on social media. Social media can be like that. But it's easy to forget how good a season it's been for Celtic. And for some people, the Glasgow Derby is the be-all and end-all, and I understand that. That's how people base their whole season, and it is the end of the world if Celtic do not get a win against Rangers. It's what we've been used to for so many years now, apart from that one adverse season. But the result didn't go Celtic's way on Sunday, but they're still in prime position for a tremendous season. If they do get that win at Ibrox, if they do go and win the Scottish Cup, if they win the Scottish Premiership in style, then nobody will be complaining about this game. Will be forgotten about quickly. It's all about the next game, and it probably just hurts more because it's an international break. It's the last thing we can talk about, but it's still been such a successful season. I can see the improvements. People are talking about how suddenly Rodgers isn't the man for the job. I can't subscribe to that at all. He's won
way over the top for me, that.
And he's pragmatic enough to change his style as well. He did it in Europe after Dortmund. He can do it against Rangers for Glasgow derbies. He'll understand
he has to do it though, Ryan. Like, I don't know what...
I think he will.
But I mean, it was 2 derbies in a row, and he didn't change anything. I know maybe Callum McGregor being out was a huge thing. Maybe if Callum McGregor had played on Sunday, it would have been very different. But I think something has to change. If we go in the same way at Ibrox in the next game, I'll be pretty worried about things, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's all about managing the game as well and not getting shaky and nervous during the game, because I thought that even the likes of Kasper Schmeichel, a guy that you would expect to be rock solid in a game, his distribution was a bit all over the place, and I think that set the tone quite early. He was getting pressured to kick the ball out. Some of the balls were going out of play. Having somebody like that who players will rely on has been one of the leaders. When Callum McGregor's out that team, he is the most senior player. And he'd be the most senior player anyway. But when you take Callum McGregor out, you're losing your captain. There's a senior figure that you can go and hang your hat on. So if he's doing that, then all of a sudden you're looking at yourself and thinking, should I be nervous? Should I be shaky as well? And that might have a domino effect on the rest of the players. So I'm willing to put it down to a bad day. Yes, in the past 3 Glasgow derbies, Celtic have conceded 3 goals against Rangers. That is a problem that needs to be addressed. But I think they've got the right manager to do that and the right manager to change that and make the necessary changes. He's a good manager. He's a winner. He's winning things. He's more than likely going to win a treble this season, and it will be a successful season. It's just all about, these things sometimes in an adverse or in a perverse sort of way, they might spur Brendan Rodgers on and be like, right, okay, I've got a problem here. I need to face that problem against Rangers. I'm actually getting challenged by Rangers this time around. I need to change something up. That might spur him on to do something different and be more pragmatic in his approach against the team, and that could turn out to be good for Celtic. So I'm willing to be positive on that end. I know there's a lot of disappointment going about just now, but yeah, these morning briefings are good therapy. We're talking about that game on Sunday. They make you feel better about it.
They do, or at least I think they do. So yeah, still plenty to be sorted out the rest of the season. We've probably only got potentially 10 games left, but a lot of them are going to be pretty meaningful. Another derby, the Scottish Cup stuff, actually winning the league. So when we get back into it, we're going to be right into things, and hopefully we get a big reaction from the team. Just a few more comment. I mean, as a boy talking about that, really need to really get back to our best against Hearts. Got a league to win. We could spend ages talking about Nicholas Kuhn, I guess. Henrik McLarsson saying he's not right at the moment. He's certainly has been poor, and I thought he was really poor on Sunday. I said yesterday I would potentially be starting Yang against Hearts. I thought one wee thing that I've not heard too many people talk about, I thought Yang looked pretty lively when he came on, a few direct runs. So I think this doesn't have to be a major controversial Nicholas Kuhn axed and Yang comes in, but I think for Hearts I would be starting Yang. I know he's away with South Korea though, isn't he? So that might have an effect on things, but in an ideal world I think I'd be starting Yang against Hearts and maybe just a wee kind of message to Nicholas Kuhn. You need to get back to what you're doing if you're wanting to play for us.
And I think that's the thing. It wouldn't be necessarily that Nicholas Kuhn would be getting dropped. It's just that Yang would be getting a starting spot that he's deserved on merit, given his performances. He came on in the second half. He played that wonderful pass, or one of the passes in the lead up to the second goal. I think he's actually got quite good passing ability when he calms the game down. He plays that inward pass that's clearly catching the eye. And I thought that he looked fearless in the game, which was absolutely brilliant to see. I like to see a guy that's improving. I do remember the last time we were calling for Yang to start against Hearts. We all know what happened at Tannadice that day. But I think he's improved. He's definitely doing his work off the pitch. Brendan Rodgers seems to enjoy working with him and improving the young player. He's only 22 years old. He's still got a long way to go in his game. But there seems to be positive signs coming out there. And South Korea can see that. They're bringing him in, having him in and around Heung-min Son. Who's been playing well for Genk recently. He's done a really good job for Genk. I think he scored a really big goal in the Belgian Super League title race. So, a good side, South Korea. So he should take that with enormous credit. He should get enormous credit for getting back into that South Korea side because they are one of those emerging nations alongside Japan in Asia.
Yes, they are. A few people just point out the arithmetic behind Celtic winning the league, and we are at the moment 4 wins away.
Okay.
Obviously, that could change if Rangers were to drop points. But at the moment, if they were to win their next 3 games, we won our next 3, then it would go till after the split to potentially seal the title. But anyway, that's a discussion for further down the line. We'll head off for now, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and spending a little bit of your Tuesday with us. It's much appreciated. Thanks, Ryan. You can read more from Ryan and the team on the website. I will return with tomorrow's morning briefing tomorrow. Speak to you then.